Thank you, Joseph. That was really fascinating, and I'm amazed at some of the examples. They, really hit the nail on the head, as they say, right? So, uh, I have a couple questions that I would like to ask and just get your perspective on uh, sort of the just like maybe take a deep dive into one of these situations and tell me about the uh, what from sort of the frugal innovation methodology, what were some of the principles that you saw at play in any of these three examples, in the specific solutions that you designed? So what I'm trying to ask here is what from the frugal innovation methodology was really beneficial in sort of delivering the value that you were able to deliver from, for these organizations.
Perfect, perfect. I think so, and I did, I think in our previous chat, I did mention saying that one key element of this, and it's there on the first slide as well, is that, the way Jaideep and team have defined frugal innovation, right? So we have kind of worked on these case studies or these solutions with the corporates or our clients has been one because there were limited resources, right? So like I said, typically they were all used to a world in which oh, you want to do something innovative, I want to build a solution, I need at least 500,000 1 million budget to do something, right? So first thing we were able to break in was our ability to create an MVP solution for as low as 50 to 100K, right? So one was, the ability to do something with limited resources, right? The second was, the harsh constraints, because typically a lot of these solutions we have built is with a ongoing process, right? So when you want to kind of, let's say, build a solution for a very busy airport, right? You can't say that, okay, let's build the solution, test it out, and then can you kind of, shut off the airport or, close some of this, right? So you still have the constraints, but a limited budget. So we were like, okay, in a limit, in a typical scenario, one would go in like our previous jobs where you would say that, oh yeah, we could do all this, but then this is going to be a 1 to 2 year program. It's going to cost you a few million, right? So, but then working with Jaideep, it kind of made us challenge ourselves to say, yes, we have all these constraints, which is like, we are working against adversity. So it's a very challenging project and you have limited budget as well, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you kind of make something happen? And that's where we went back to the frugal innovation principles and methodologies to kind of approach it, right? And then if you look at the 5 or 6 things that Jaideep has said, so we said, okay, one could overcomplicate the whole thing and say, oh wow, we are going to work with an airport or a large supermarket, right? Let's just do it like the way we all understood from our previous jobs. Or you could kind of say, let's keep it simple. Let's, look at something that will make an impact, show the results, then build on top of it. And then, like I said, especially the supermarket, more than it being our involvement, the team behind it really passionately believed about it. It was like they said, you know what, I have this mobile phone, has all these fancy apps. Can we not just build a simple mobile app to help save a life, right? And that really excited us as well. We said, yeah, absolutely, let's do something. So
Right.
that's how thing, how we approach these.
Yeah, and it's amazing because it's also about alternative uses of what exists, right? It's what resources are at your disposal and what can you do
Right.
to keep while keeping it simple. How are you able to then re-deliver sort of the value proposition using that
Yeah.
same resource
Yeah.
base? And so I think
Yeah.
that's the fascinating thing about this is, yeah, I mean, everybody has a phone, so why not take advantage of that? It's so pervasive, and it's so easy to, as you call it, orchestrate, right? So if it's everywhere, and that you're keeping track of things, then why not use that device which already exists instead of going to the market, buying these
Right.
fancy tablets that everyone needs to carry around, or investing more into infrastructure and devices. It's, yeah, so I completely see and I really like the example that you gave with the watermelon, because what we've seen so far is that people focus on the large fruit and they
Yeah.
try to consume the large fruit all at once. But
Yeah.
by cutting it down, you're actually frugalizing.
Yes.
Yeah, right. And so the value is not just all at once. It's actually proportioned in a way that the organization is able to digest it, right? Because
Yes.
if you have too much watermelon at a time, it can cause problems, right? So
Yes. Absolutely.
so
Yeah. Very
so it
well
has
put.
to
Very well put.
so it has to go through that process of the ideate, the orchestrate, and then scaling it and
Integrate and
operationalizing it.
operate.
So yeah,
Yeah.
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 So people have to be patient for this. It's not going to happen in a second. Yes, it's going to happen faster than a true IT heavy deployment. It's going to happen
Right.
faster than that, and it's not a 5-year project that you're doing like an SAP deployment or whatever, right? So it's going to
Right.
happen in a
Right.
shorter time period, but you have to kind of redefine your goals and purposes for those small time periods. So essentially,
And I think that's why I think the word transformation, right?
yeah,
So you have to transform. It takes time, right?
yeah.
You can't just switch on a button and it doesn't transform, right?
Exactly,
So then you don't
exactly.
need to call it transformation.
Yeah, yeah. So you're frugalizing the time and the value. So and it has to be sort of added on versus
Yes,
delivered all at once. So it has to be piece by
exactly,
piece. So and I really like
exactly.
that. I really like that because that made it very clear about what the notion about frugal is that uh, it might deliver very small changes because it's supposed to be
Right,
frugal. But then if you have a lot of small changes in a short in a longer period of time over short intervals, it
right.
ultimately adds up to larger value. So I think that was excellent.
Yeah,
Um,
and also I think the way we approach it is we are still creating the watermelon, right? We are still approaching the same digital transformation. Sometimes some of this might take actually 1 or 2 years as well, right? But then the
right,
way we go about is that at least one group of a team or one or two departments start to see early success, because
yes,
then you have these guys who are championing the next department, right?
yeah,
Because if you go and talk about change, right, while you can present it as digital transformation, right, nobody
yeah,
likes change, right? And especially today's world, you say, oh, I'm going to put in some new system. Everyone gets very worried. Okay, is this about job loss? I'm going to lose my role. A lot of things happen, right? When you kind of start to compartmentalize it and say that, okay, yes, this is a big picture. We are going to digitally transform the entire thing end to end, but then we'll take one piece at a time, show success. Of course there will be some gaps, some learnings. We then bring it to the next piece and the next piece and so on and so forth. And in some cases we've been able to kind of do the parallel tracks, right? So we divide into small groups and say that, okay, maybe we can just do 3 or 4 at one go, right?
right,
So that it's then depends on the throughput at the client's end.
right. And I believe these are small teams and not large teams that are initially, engaged. So if you can give us some idea about, what are sort of the HR, requirements and levels of engagement in such projects, and especially not just the project as a whole, but when you're trying to compartmentalize it, like what's the typical team size and other thing, because these are questions that are also of concern, because how many human resources are we
Oh,
dedicating to something like
absolutely.
this?
No, very important question. And that's why I think, as you go about explaining frugal innovation, a lot of people jump at it and say that, oh, this is agile, right? Oh, this is lean, right? Now, yes, of course, we bring a lot of elements around agile and lean into this, right? So typically when we go about this, we create, agile scrum teams to approach all of this, right? And typically, so if there are multiple tracks, we'll have multiple agile scrum teams, right? And then each team then would have a scrum master. And about 5 to 6 is the team. So we call each of these agile scrum teams as pods, right?
Mm-hmm.
So POD pods, right? So
Mm-hmm.
each
Mm-hmm.
pod is a scrum team, and then they work together to deliver something every 2 weeks, right?
Right.
So it's like every 2 weeks they are delivering something. And then so it's like, in a month there are 2 releases that are happening. And then the number of pods that a client has decides the throughput that's happening.
Okay. 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 So that's good. That's good. Um, and so just to quickly then maybe distinguish this even more from agile and lean, could we say that the philosophy, the overarching philosophy, is coming from the frugal innovation space, but
Right.
your delivery mechanisms and and your methodology borrows a lot from the lean and agile. So philosophically you're aligned with frugal, and then the delivery is more sort of a mix of what comes from the philosophy of frugal combined with a lot of agile and lean. Is that, would that be true?
Very well put. Very well put. Because, like I said, eventually the team that's come together for Ignito and for Nuivio, we have kind of come from the world of, initially it was all waterfall, which was like a long, very slow moving model, to Agile came in, etc. Right now, Agile, as you rightly put in, is only a way of doing a project. Right. It still doesn't kind of tell you saying that, okay, what is the model to deliver on it, right? So you can use agile to deliver a small project or large project, right? But then I think, where the frugal innovation methodology comes in is in the solutioning, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once you solution and say, okay, this is how I'm going to build this solution for a supermarket or for a airport, then it's about, okay, how quickly can you move, how much can you do with a small team, right? And then if there are principles and models out there, we then integrate that into what we're already trying to do.
Great, great. Okay, I know we are already over time, so I will stop with my questions here. And I know we've sort of already agreed on a follow-up session, so
Sure.
we will pick up there. Thank you so much for your time, and I think this was fascinating from several perspectives, and it was enlightening, and I got to learn so much more about the practical applications of what, as researchers we see, from an academic standpoint. So it was great from multiple perspectives, and I think this helps us push the boundaries of what can be envisioned for the future of sort of frugal digital innovation. And I think you're truly one of the pioneers in this space. So thank you for spending the time with us, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much, Suchit, and I enjoy our conversation always. And I think the passion you have with interest in frugal innovation, digital. I think it's an upcoming area. So I look forward to our follow-on conversations as well.
All right, great. Thank you so much.